Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Stephen Grundman. I teach the integrative courses, philosophy, theology, and psychology in our doctorate in clinical psychology program. I'll be your MC tonight. The Newman Lecture series, now in its 24th year, sponsored by Divine Mercy University, aims at building a body of learned discussion that is Catholic, both in its breadth of research and in its dialogue with contemporary Catholic Christian thought. We are pleased to offer tonight's lecture both on campus and online, and so a few words to our audiences about submitting questions for our speaker following the lecture. For those joining us online, as questions occur to you, please type them in the chat box or the question and answer box. For technical reasons, online questions will be taken until the question and answer period begins. For those joining us on campus, we have a microphone for you here in the room. We have two microphones, one on either side in the back. Thank you. And now, as Father Shu has been called away suddenly on priestly duties, I've been invited to open us in prayer. Please join me. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for calling us to be living witnesses of your love for each human person. We thank you for inspiring the mission of Divine Mercy University and supporting our studies. We thank you especially for the presence of our distinguished speaker tonight, who will be sharing with us a great deal of research to help further our work. So we ask you to bless as well all those who are present or are able to watch this presentation with us and all those they touch. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. And now I invite Dr. Klawicki, Dean of the Institute for the Psychological Sciences, to introduce tonight's distinguished speaker. Dr. Klawicki.
I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing one of my colleagues and friends. This is Dr. Martiño RodríguezGonzález. He completed his bachelor's degree in psychology at the University of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. He then obtained a master's in psychology of the family from the John Paul II Institute in Madrid, Spain. He completed his last degree, which was his PhD at the Comillas Pontifical University in Spain also. Getting a theme here? Dr. Rodríguez-González now works as an associate researcher at the Institute for Culture and Society of the University of Navarra in Pamplona, Spain. And he maintains a private practice focusing mainly on the work with couples and families. Dr. Rodríguez-González is the principal investigator of 3 research funding projects: a randomized control trial in emotionally focused couple therapy in Spanish, Divine Forgiveness, Psychological Aspects of Confession in Spanish-Speaking Catholics, and Mental Health in Schools. He is also the author of 8 book chapters, 1 book, and over 25 peer-reviewed publications, primarily in journals related to family and couples therapy. He is on fellowship and has short research visits at the University of Ottawa, University of Coimbra, there we go, sorry. University of Porto, Brigham Young University, Boston University, and Georgetown Family Center for the Study of the Family. Since 2009, he has had teaching appointments, both full-time and as an invited professor at the Universidad de Navarra, Universidad de Francisco de Vitoria, Universidad de Santiago de Compostela, the John Paul II Institute, and the Universidad de Deusto in Spain, Bilbao, Spain, right? I am butchering all of these with my horrible Spanish pronunciation, so I apologize to anybody who did not understand me, actually. He's fully trained in emotionally focused therapy by Sue Johnson's Institute Center for EFT in Canada. He has level 1 accreditation in emotion focused therapy by Greenberg. He's fully accredited as a family and couple systems therapist by the National Federation of Family Therapy. And he's president of the Spanish Association for the Research and Development of Family Therapy from 2019 to the present. So it's with great honor that I introduce to you Dr. Martiño RodríguezGonzález.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to the Divine Mercy. Thank you, Dr. Klewicki, for your work and for all the faculty and students that are here. It's for me a real pleasure and honor to have been invited to this Newman Lecture. And I expect to be able to share some of my ideas and thoughts and reflections about this very relevant issue, strongly connected with the family and the marriage, with mental health, and with flourishing and with psychotherapy. Here you can see the outline with I will follow in the lecture today. I will start with a brief introduction of the topic. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the main couple therapy approaches. And after, I'm going to mention some of the research topics, the main research topics and emerging issues in the field. After that, I'm going to talk about some key people and leading research groups and challenges in the field. And at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about my work in the lab in Navarra, related with couples therapy. And at the end, I'm going to suggest some future studies, some ideas for future studies. My intention is to present a big picture of the state of the couples therapy field, and this could be is going to be the first part, and we will have another second part of this lecture in October. More information at the end. So I would like to start saying that the marriage and the family are in the core of the Catholic Church message and its proposal for flourishing in life. Today, my impression is there is a deep discussion in the core of the Catholic Church about some specific aspects related with the marriage. Catholic Church is the same church for all over the world. Thus, the discussion is not possible to affect only one country. How we can contribute to a real flourishing of the marriage and the family. Moreover, can we contribute to build a better world, transforming the couple therapist training and the view of the person that Catholic couples therapists have? I trust we can. I think the Catholic psychologists are now more than ever in a relevant position for the Catholic Church, and we can contribute to build sometimes a bridge between the Church and the society. This bridge is needed, particularly for the US. I think particularly for the US people, there is a temptation of saying Rome is very far away. But I think the work EMU is doing with the integration of psychology and Catholic faith is a good job. And it's a big contribution, not only for the USA, but for everyone. But we need to build more bridges, and I hope this lecture can contribute to that. The romantic relationships are a universal aspect of the human existence. It's a relevant topic across cultures with significant implications from several perspectives, ethical, biological, for the religion, also as social construction, studying why we partner, what leads two individuals to stay together, and which are the factors contributing to the flourishing of that union is of great importance. In the past, couple therapy was a variation from individual or family therapy, but nowadays it stands on its own, and it has its own distinct methods. According with LeBeau and Snyder, which are two American authors I'm going to mention a lot in this lecture, there are three key factors have driven the development of couple therapy as a prominent therapeutic field. First, the couple distress prevalence. In all the Occidental countries, a high percentage of marriages end in divorce. Second, the negative impact of relationship distress on the emotional and physical well-being of adult partners and their offspring. Partners in distressed relationships are significantly more likely to have a mood disorder, anxiety disorder, or substance use disorder, and to develop more physical health problems. And couple conflict and distress have been related with a long list of negative effects on children, including mental health problems and physical health problems. A third factor is the higher expectations for couples relationships. Today, we expect our partner to be the perfect partner. The couple relationship should work perfectly. Couples therapy field is highly diverse worldwide. Research in couple therapy comes predominantly from the USA and from English-speaking countries, for example, Canada, Australia, or UK. But for example, in a systematic review of the couple therapy research in Greater China, it is possible to read, couple or marriage therapy is a Western creation designed to address problems arising in intimate and romantic relationships. This shows research in couple therapy from China is pretty new, starting mostly in the last 15 years. Is to take care of couple relationships a public health priority? In my opinion, it should. Nevertheless, the investment in research about how the couple relationship works is truly inadequate. It doesn't not seem as a priority for the National Institute of Mental Health in the States or the European Commission research grants in Europe. Which are the main couple approaches we can find in the literature? There are hundreds of different couple therapy approaches. I don't know her, but in Spain, for example, you can find a very long list. In the slide, you can check one of the most relevant approaches, in my opinion. But probably if we wait 2 or 3 years, new approaches will appear. Everyone create its own approach and try to create a space. There are good news and bad news about the approaches. Let's go first with the bad news. Just pick one couple of examples from the list right now. For example, psychodynamic psychoanalytic couple therapy. According with a recent systematic review of the psychodynamic couple therapy field in the last 50 years, most of research manuscripts published in this field are case studies followed by conceptual theoretical contributions and a very few number of empirical quantitative research contributions. According with the systematic review published recently, among the 130 studies published under the field psychoanalytic couple therapy, only 2 used quantitative approaches. I'm sorry, but this is not good. Case studies and theoretical manuscripts are very important, but we need good quality empirical research in psychology and psychotherapy. Another example, cognitive behavioral couple therapy. In Spain, as psychologists, 95% of the schools of psychology trained in a cognitive behavioral approach. Thus, almost any psychologist from Spain, unless he or she be trained in another specific approach, could say, I am a cognitive behavioral couple therapist. What does it mean, and which are the core skills they can show in couple therapy? It's a mystery. Nobody knows really. This is also a problem because, moreover, I know this is not only a Spanish issue. Do you want to know about the good news? Good news are couple therapy is an essential health intervention, and different recent systematic reviews and some meta-analysis conclude that we cannot be optimistic about couple therapy. Treatment developed for distressed couples are producing large-size changes across multiple key domains and relationship functioning. Moreover, these effects were generally maintained for as much as 2 years after the end of the treatment. If we look at the list I have presented previously, we can highlight 2 models in particular: the integrative cognitive behavioral couple therapy and the emotionally focused couple therapy. These 2 approaches have been tested through several different RCT, randomized controlled trials, from different cultural frames and research teams, and also using other research designs, not only the randomized controlled trials, as a quasi-experimental and other types of research. That means that they are 2 promising approaches to treat couple distress. There are also health disorders or issues beyond couple distress, for which couple therapy has also been proved through randomized controlled trials or other research approaches, such as to treat post-traumatic stress disorder or substance abuse. When we talk about evidence-based treatment, we are talking about how much a treatment or approach is based on research. First, it's important to know that the number of studies in individual psychotherapy are much higher in their number than the studies for family and couples therapy. And there are different levels of evidence in psychotherapy. In particular, in the field of couple and family therapy, there is a relevant proposal made by Sexton, Lebeau, and other colleagues to classify the treatments according with their level of scientific evidence. Here is the manuscript, where is the proposal, and they suggest 3 levels. Level 1, evidence-informed treatments clearly based upon psychological research. Second level, treatments which show promising preliminary research results. And level 3, evidence-based treatments. To achieve the 3rd level, several conditions must be met. They must be therapy models that have achieved positive results in at least 2 outcome studies, which we can consider to have been tested in different cultural contexts and with different research groups, and that the results have been assessed through measures considered reliable. For a therapeutic model to undergo these types of studies, certain conditions must exist, such as a clear treatment model with a manual, a measure of model fidelity to test the adherence or competence of the therapist, and a clear guide about how someone can be trained in the model. Not all the couple therapy approaches fulfill these requirements. Different and diverse research methods might be needed at different phases in the evolution of a treatment program or a treatment model. Research approaches do not produce the same type of evidence. A clinical trial is the highest quality level in terms of scientific approach to test the efficacy of a treatment, but other studies with lower internal validity, less control, and more naturalistic research settings can test the treatment model effectiveness. I'm talking here about efficacy and effectiveness, which are two relevant words when we talk about evidence-based treatments, because efficacy is about the performance of an intervention under ideal or uncontrolled circumstances, as the best example is the randomized controlled trial, while effectiveness refers to its performance under real-world conditions. Both types of studies are important in the development of a research to test a couple model to test an approach in couple therapy. Okay, let's move to the next topic, next point in the outline. What are the main research topics, and after that, some emerging issues in the field? Here you can see a list of several topics on the field. Many of them are also relevant topics in individual psychotherapy or family therapy. I'm not trying to present a full list of all the topics couples therapy research could address, but to share some examples to help those who are not doing research in this field to know what are the topics. Efficacy and effectiveness, we already talked about that. The therapeutic alliance is a topic itself. Dropout, we have sometimes a high rate of dropout, and this is bad. Why the couples drop out or keep going in the process? The therapist training is a big issue. The supervision, we can take together these two if we want. The measure of change. LGBT and minority groups or different kinds of couples is another topic. Cultural competencies and other topics that you can see in the list. We can take 5 or 20 hours to talk about each one of the main topics, but I would like to focus briefly in the last one, couple therapy interventions to address individual issue health problems. As LeBeau and Snyder argue in a recent manuscript of 2022, couple therapy has traditionally been mostly understood as a treatment to improve relationship satisfaction. Nevertheless, in the last 2 decades, couple therapies have been focused on problems traditionally viewed as problems of the individuals. The strong association of couple relationship distress with individual psychological and physical health problems provides a rationale for applying couple therapy to treat those individual issues. There are 2 forms of adaptations of couple therapy for treatment of individual disorders: disorder-specific couple interventions and partner-assisted treatment. Couple treatments of individual problems are mostly cognitive behavioral in their approach, but other theoretical models of couple therapy are already working to treat individual emotional or physical health problems. In the slide, you can see some examples of mental and physical health issues where research suggests couple interventions are helpful, as substance abuse or intimate partner violence or cancer. I want to focus in three of that to talk a little bit more. For example, in substance abuse, there are strong evidence that some of these partner assisted treatments work very well to help them. Alcohol could be a case, but also other types of substance abuse. For the post-traumatic stress disorder, I have found more than 8-10 randomized controlled trials from different modules, including one using emotionally focused therapy to try to help couples where one member of the partner has this problem, and similar with intimate partner violence. There are also some emerging issues. They are relatively new issues in couple therapy, and in most of the cases, also in individual psychotherapy. In general, I'm going to mention three, and most of the ideas I'm going to share, or even some sentences, come from a recent manuscript by Lebeau and Snyder in Family Process, where they mention a list of around 10 emerging issues in the field of couple therapy. The technology, one of the first on the list. The pandemic potentiated a trend toward telehealth and using electronic media as an extension of therapy. During the pandemic, almost all psychotherapy shifted to video conferencing, and in some cases, it remains as a major format for couple therapy in several countries. Couple therapists mostly report that virtual therapy seems to work as well as in-person therapy. Video conference solves several constraints about costs, timing, traffic, rush hours. Nevertheless, there are unsolved questions related with, for example, how to manage couple conflicts in the distance. It's not the same, the individual psychotherapy, when you have a couple in the screen and you can't move it to try to somehow take their attention. Is the quality of the interpersonal communication between the therapist and the couples really similar? Is similar the quality of the therapeutic alliance across in-person or virtual therapy? What about the efficacy and the effectiveness of couple therapy using teleconference? We don't have a lot of research on these issues because the teletherapy is, although it's not new because it happens since a lot of years, the research is really new. It's being conducted right now. Another emerging issue is couple therapy and social media. With the internet and the globalization of the resources, couple therapy is now frequently identified by like consumers using social media. Anyone can reach for help for their marriage without considering the professional profile. If I say something that doesn't work very well here in the States, considering I live in Spain and I'm very connected with a lot of Latin American countries and other European countries, also with the States, where the regulation about who can provide psychotherapy is probably the strongest in the world. In the slide, one moment. The people can even choose the couple therapist using Instagram. The channels people choose to seek a couple therapist are changing. Moreover, couple therapy has become a global market. Now, We have some couples in Spain, and the therapists are in other countries. And Spain and these other countries doesn't have any kind of rule that says you can't do that. It's totally possible and legal. Do people know the difference between a clinical psychologist with a PhD and someone with a 2-year master program in counseling without a bachelor in psychology? People know that. Does this matter for them? It's a question. What are the criteria people is using to choose their couple therapist? And when we move to the specific field of the Catholic Church, this is also a big issue. My experience is that sometimes people rely on the Catholic identity when they look to someone for a professional help, without considering the professional training dimension. This is not uncommon, for example, in Spain. I'm sure this does not happen here in the States. A third topic, emerging issue, is the different and new demands of help for different types of couples. Traditional formulations of relationships are not now the most frequent. Diverse types of couples with different types of requests and demands are the rule. This opens a long list of questions about the therapist. For example, do I have, as a couple therapist, an adequate knowledge for working with a couple from a different cultural frame? Couples like to choose therapists they consider they have similar values or cultural frame. In my opinion, this makes sense, and it has positive aspects, as it contributes to promote the idea couples with a certain religion or cultural background should be able to find a therapist who understands their culture or religion. In this field, I want to highlight the work Jesse Owen from the University of Navarra, together with several others as Stephen Sandage or Joseph Carrier or Jesse Fox, co-editor of Integratus, the journal of the CPA, are doing in the field of psychotherapy, which includes couple and family therapy also, to provide research to sustain the relevance of the spiritual competencies of the psychotherapist. I think they are working in a good direction, being able to impact scientific and clinical work through research results where spirituality competencies are part of the skills a therapist needs to conduct couple therapy or individual therapy or family therapy. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about the key people and leading research groups. I already mentioned it. Research in couple therapy comes mainly from the USA and the English-speaking countries. This is coherent when we look at the key people and the leading research groups. First, I would like to mention some senior generation. I call them senior because most of them are retired, as you can see in the slide. But they are very relevant people in the field, and they are still alive. They publish something, not a lot, but are still present doing different kind of things, and they are important. Gottman, Snyder, Johnson, Christensen, and Bauckham. But if we think about research groups working now in making relevant contributions to the field, I should mention probably first Brigham Young University. Brigham Young University has a very strong group of people 12 researchers linked with the School of Family Life, working in the marital and family therapy program, who are very good researchers, publishing 3, 6, 8 manuscripts, papers every year in the field of family and couple therapy. And they have very strong funds from their own university to create a long-term program in research in couple therapy and family therapy. I never know how to pronounce the second author, Brian from the University of Miami, is another very relevant person in the field, together with Wittenborn in Michigan State, and the Northwestern University has a very important group of people in the Family Institute, and Jai Lebeau is from that institution. In Canada, there is a group of researchers from different universities, Quebec, Ottawa, Laval, and others, and they work a lot together. Sometimes some of them are PhD students that have become professors, so they have strong relationships and they work a lot in this field. In Florida State, we have also a good group led by Franz Fincham. And in Denver, we have a group more focused on couple education than in couple therapy, but at the end, they publish also some research in couples therapy. Markman, Stanley. If we look at Europe, the main two are Bodenman and Bar Khalifa. Bodenman is a very relevant author in the area of dyadic data approach. Is a person with a very strong focus on methods and stats, but their main contributions came from the area of couple and couple therapy and couple in general. And Eran Bar Khalifa is the leading of lab in Israel. Israel has a very strong focus as a country in research. Really, in Europe, psychotherapy is one of the stronger countries in Europe. It's in the limit of Europe, but okay. And Eran has a lab where he studied the nonverbal facial expressions with a very new approaches. There are other people in Spain, some Carles Perez and Jorge Barraca, and in Italy also Camillo Regalia, Silvia Mazzoni in the Sapienza. And I want to know, I try to look at people in Africa, in Asia, and really I didn't find, not only for this lecture, but in my work in the field, people you can say this person is working in this field for 10 years or 20 and is making relevant contributions in the main journals of the field. Not really. And I would like to talk a little bit also about the key people with high impact in social life. Some of them are also researchers and others are not researchers, but they have a strong presence in the field of couple therapy. Of course, the best example is John Gottman. John Gottman has an institute and his model is like, although it's very cognitive behavioral, I can say it's the Gottman model. It's so strong with a lot of books and trainings, and it's really present in the media, at least in Europe. I think here could be the same. Sue Johnson from Canada, the creator of the emotionally focused couple therapy. Esther Perel, I don't know if you are familiar with this author. She is from New York or is located usually in New York. And she has some books about couples. And I think she has some publications regularly in the New York Times. Solomon, John Gray, and Gary Chapman for their books, very famous also in Europe. And this is some of the groups and people I can identify. Challenges in contemporary couple therapies. Okay, I want to mention nine challenges. I try to group in 3 blocks. First block, more focus on research and clinical challenges. Other more in practical challenges is what how I decided to call it. And another challenges related with the Catholic understanding of the marriage. So in the research field, the question of how when the therapy ends, what happened after, and if that improvements can maintain over time. Although there is some research focused on that, on what happened after the end of the couple therapy, this is a weakness in the research field. We need to understand better how the therapy improves the relationships in the long term. Which type of interventions or combination of interventions work better? Another challenge is the measure of change, how to monitoring the process of change of the couples. In a recent book, John Gottman presents a central idea. The time of self-reports in research in psychotherapy is over. I will say also in psychology. We can't move forward, we can't understand really deeper some processes using only self-reports. We need to apply new and complementary forms to measure change in therapy. I agree. Technology is providing new and stronger ways of monitoring changes. There are some research labs, as the one led by Eran Bar Khalifa in Israel, where nonverbal analysis and facial expressions, psychophysiological variables, and other aspects of the couple interaction are measured in the lab through a series of couple therapy sessions. We need to understand better what happens also outside the therapy session, not only to increase good outcomes, but to detect therapeutic interventions clients do not benefit from. The change mechanisms. Although some mechanisms of change have already been identified, there are still many questions about what creates change in couple therapy. To move forward in this question requires a complex interaction between theoretical models and strong empirical data studies. This is another area for improvement in couple therapy. If we go to the practical challenges, one first challenge is to increase the attendance to couple therapy. Couples do not seek couple therapy. Although divorce and relationship distress has, according with research, a negative impact in their lives, in their health, their relationships, their work functioning, their children if they have. People seek for treatment in depression more than in couple therapy. Why and how do couples seek couple therapy for their relationship? This is a question we need to clarify. Couples therapy is expensive. Many people can't have access to this resource, either in the United States, but also in other countries. We need to find ways to provide good resources for couples with high distress rates. Health insurance does not cover couple therapy even in countries as Spain, where almost everything is covered by health insurance. Another issue in this block of the practical challenges is the complexity of the training process of a couple therapist. According with some psychotherapists and experts, couple therapy might be the most difficult form of psychotherapy. We need to work with two clients in conflict, with different demands and perspectives, with high rates of uncertainty. Therapists who treat couples should be very well trained for dealing with these challenges. How to reduce the time for training a good couple therapist, how to improve efficiency, how to help to learn easier, faster, and better. And the third one in this block and the last one in this block is to improve quality of couple therapists, especially in non-English countries. Most therapists who offer couple therapy are not trained in it. I mean, most psychotherapy training programs, whether in Europe or the US, do not offer a special subject or focus for training in couple therapy. And yet, these therapists will, in almost all the cases, offer couple therapy among their services. But this problem or challenge is much bigger than you could think. In the previous section about the main couple therapy approaches, I've talked about the levels of evidence according with the Sexton proposal. And I mentioned only 2 therapy approaches achieve the requirements for being considered evidence-based in the 3rd level of Sexton classification: emotionally focused couple therapy by Sue Johnson and integrative cognitive behavioral couple therapy by Christensen. How many accredited couple therapists do you think you have in the States in these 2 models? You have several hundreds, less than I would expect in the first economic country in the world. But let's take Spain. How many therapists accredited in emotionally focused couple therapy do you think we have in Spain today? How many? 5. How many do you think we have in the integrative cognitive behavioral couple therapy? How many? 2. 7 for a country of almost 5 million population. Thus, I think to improve the quality of couple therapies is a challenge in the field. Let's go to the 3rd block, the challenges related with the Catholic understanding of the marriage. A first challenge I can identify is to have therapists with the skills to address sexual difficulties in Catholic marriages. When to the requirement of being trained in couple therapy, we add training in sexology, and we look for a therapist be able to conduct an intervention with a Catholic couple, an intervention according with their beliefs, then the difficulties become even greater. The Francisco de Victoria University in Madrid has detected this big issue and has just launched a postgraduate course to try to help to reduce this gap. It's a first step, not complete or perfect, but a step to address this challenge. Another challenge in the field, if we think about the Catholic understanding of the marriage, is to integrate truth and love in the couple therapy process. There are a lot of couple therapists, they say they are Catholic, but their practice is not different to any other couple therapist. And the training in the Catholic view of the human person and the Catholic faith is very weakness. Thus, the integration is not possible. But there are also a good bunch of Catholics. They say they know how to do couple therapy, but they are not really well trained, even as general psychotherapists. This integration, this balance, this complexity of elements is an idea we can apply to all psychotherapy. But in my opinion, in marriage and couple therapy, this becomes particularly an issue to address. And the third challenge, I thought about several challenges that I could write as the third one, but I did not find really one which seems to me more relevant than the others. So I want to suggest to invite you who are listening this lecture, either in person here or remotely, to think about what do you think is a challenge here in this third block, or if you want in one of the others, when we talk about couple therapy. And please send to me your challenge using my email address you can find in the slide, or if you use Google with my name and University of Navarra, you will find my email. And I will consider all the challenges in the second part of the lecture in October. So my lab at the University of Navarra, since 2018, I am part of the University of Navarra, where I work to try to transform, to improve the couple therapy field in the Spanish-speaking countries. This is my main research line, and we are working trying to address some challenges in the three levels I mentioned, in the clinical, the practical, and also challenges related with the marriages, Catholic marriages in therapy. We have conducted the first randomized controlled trial in couple therapy conducted ever in Spanish-speaking countries. It's good news and bad news at the same time. We have tested emotionally focused therapy approach. EFT is an attachment-based model, and we think there are a strong coherence with the Catholic view of the person and the marriage. We work with colleagues from Canada and the US, and we are conducting other 4 empirical studies apart from the RCT. Our first step was to create a bridge between the best research in couple therapy, happens here in the States and Canada, and the Spanish-speaking countries. The next steps we are currently starting is to develop a project to increase the quality of the training of the couple therapists in Spanish-speaking countries. We have a lot of collaborators. Some of them are from here. Dr. Mamarosh and Dr. Holman, Dr. Klewicki are also involved in some collaboration in this field. And so the model of Sue Johnson, you are familiar with some of these books. We have the randomized control trial we ran happened in 5 countries: Mexico, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Argentina, and Spain. The group of therapists and supervisors together with the researchers could be around 50 people. And we have a web page I can share with you, and it's translated also in English by IA, artificial intelligence. So I don't know how good is that translation. So to finish, some of ideas about considering the challenges, what we can do. Some ideas. I will be able to talk about future studies 2 hours or 3, but only 2 minutes. DMU can lead a network to improve this field in the world with research and public engagement initiatives. DMU is in the US. The US has a strong idea of, if nobody is going to do it, I'm going to do it, more than in other countries. DMU is an ANAWAC network with several countries, all, I think, no, 2 are in Italy, but most of them, 80% of the ANAWAC network is in Spanish-speaking countries, mostly in Mexico. And you have very good collaborators and friends as Navarra, the Catholic University of America, the John Paul II Institute, which is here in Washington, D.C., inside the Catholic campus, but it's a different institution. Also, I saw that the John Paul II in Mexico is inside the ANAWAC network. So it's just an idea. You can work in this line. Working with the model for human flourishing, what you know as CCMMB, to analyze and integrate this model with the main approaches in couple therapy, EFT and the integrative cognitive behavioral therapy, to develop an empirical study where couple therapists are trained in the meta model, and to explore with a mixed method study the changes in the therapist after get that course, that training. And if we think about the challenges related with the Catholic understanding of the marriage, what are the challenges here in the States? I don't know what are the challenges here. But you are growing. You can create an alumni network with clinicians from DMU who have interest in this field of the marriage and the couple therapy, and work led by a team of researchers, some of them from here, for example. This connects with the first idea, to be able to develop empirical research to address these challenges you have here in the States. Thank you for your attention. And I would love to hear your comments, questions, thoughts after a break, I think, but.
We will break for 3 minutes and then we will begin our question and answer period.
Australia. I am one of the team leaders of the counseling team. What is your opinion to proceed with couples therapy when the couples have an intervention family order due to abusive relationships? Some of the magistrates' courts in our country put in place court orders to attend couples therapy, even knowing the high risk for the victim survivors.
I don't know the specific situation this question came from. I think for in couples therapy, the goals could be different. Not always the goals are create a safer space, because sometimes the problem in the couple is they can't communicate each other. If I will find myself in this situation, first I think about, I want to be in this situation. I have an alternative. If I don't agree with this type of situation, or I don't feel comfortable as psychotherapist, it's difficult for me to do a good job. So, but maybe for other people, it's fine. They feel okay for some reason. I'm not saying it's okay or it's not okay. I don't know. We have very few information about what the situation this person is talking about. So first idea, think about, I want to keep here. I'm able to do a good job considering who I am in this type of setting. And if not, try to move to another job. And the second idea is couples therapy can have different levels, different goals. For example, to apply emotionally focused couple therapy in this context, I repeat, we have limited information about the context, but with this information, seems to me, it's not a good model for this context, because emotionally focused therapy try to create a safe space to increase vulnerability, and this is not a good idea for this context. But if we need the couple talk, and if it's mandatory, the couple should go there. As psychotherapist, I have a lot of freedom to decide what I'm going to do with this couple. In my therapy room, I decide who is where for how long, if we are going to talk the three together or in individual spaces, etc., etc., etc. So try to look at a way to help. And if you feel it's a very complex situation, try to look for supervision.
How long does it take for one to get a certification in the area of couples therapy?
How long? Depends on the person, but at least some years. I consider to get a certification in the area of couples therapy requires a strong training in psychology, bachelor in psychology, or I know, please read my words considering I am from Spain. In Spain, a social worker is never a psychotherapist. But these are the rules in Spain. I'm not telling here a social worker can't be a psychotherapist. But if we talk about couples therapy, after the master program, to be trained in one of the two modules I'm talking about, the models with evidence-based, the third level, I will say between 2 and 4 years, because you need to apply the model to receive supervision, to be very focused on the process.
How do you rate transactional analysis? This is an approach, among others, which has been used for many years by the Catholic Marriage Advisory Council in Hong Kong.
Transactional analysis. First, I'm not an expert in transactional analysis, so what I'm going to say should be just a first idea. But as far as I know, transactional analysis, I'm sure is not an evidence-based couples therapy approach. So if you look for the best thing you can give to the couple who comes, I will say transactional analysis doesn't seem to be the best thing. But at the same time, for helping the couples, we need several different levels of help, different settings. Sometimes the couples can receive an advice and counseling help and other types of helps. And maybe could work. I will say, if this center is a center where you feel everyone there thinks transactional analysis is great, try to talk with someone in another place, in another country, who thinks transactional analysis is not very good. And talk a lot with this person and make a new way of thinking about transactional analysis. And sometimes all the people are trained in transactional analysis and there are not an alternative. So they can try to improve their training with another approach or.
We have recently had a debate among Catholic therapists about how to approach both a homosexual/agnostic couple, etc., searching psychotherapist from a Catholic perspective. Which are the limitations related to the issue of conscientious objection, discussed a lot within EFPA?
I don't know what is EFPA. Someone can help me with that. EFPA could be a rule, a regulation. I don't know. Esta es una pregunta muy compleja.
Maybe emotion-focused physician
No,
assistance?
Emotion?
I don't know.
Emotion focus? No.
Physician assistance? No?
Physician assistance? No. No. I will answer in Spanish and Ferraras will translate me. Okay? Are you ready? Okay. Digo que esta es una pregunta muy compleja.
This is a complex question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say, igual que en la otra cuestión, creo que que la respuesta es muy personal y que para contestarla es necesario que alguien con más experiencia pueda conocer en detalle la situación.
Similar to the prior situation, this is a very personal matter, so it requires knowing someone who knows more about the issue.
Yeah. To give an answer to this question, I think is you need to share all the situation with someone that can know much more details about what happened in this situation. Who are you? How do you manage this situation? And someone with more experience, someone you trust in his or her criteria, to try to make un discernimiento conjunto.
A joint discernment.
A joint discernment. So if we think about what's my opinion with this information, I don't have really an opinion. I think the psychotherapy should be conducted in a space where all the people involved feel comfortable as much as possible, because it is about to create a deep relationship. So if there are something for me as a therapist that creates conflicts, this is everyday life in psychotherapy. But if it's a very strong conflict, I will need supervision and maybe something more in this case. Okay. We have other questions here. But we are going to move to the questions in here, and maybe if we have more time, I will go back to the online questions. Please go ahead.
I have a question about, from a Catholic standpoint, how do you work in couple therapy with an LGBTQ couple? So I don't know what the approaches would be.
Can you repeat the question? If the question is about myself or in general?
I guess in general.
In general. In general. Honestly, I don't have an answer for that. Honestly, because I only work with heterosexual couples. It's not a choice. Could be a choice, but all the couples that came to my private practice are heterosexual. I think there are a lot in the literature and in the training that it can be applied to same-sex couples or heterosexual couples. So, but again, we come back to the question of I think it's important the therapists feel okay and feel safe, comfortable in the therapy room, as well as the couple. So, sorry, because I don't have more ideas to share. Next question. Can we do something to reduce if I can do something, I can do it. But I try to don't move myself a lot. Stay quiet.
So I was wondering about, I know that in particular, like within the Catholic community, there seems to be a lot of stigma around couples therapy or marriage counseling. And so I was wondering, like, how would you propose lowering the stigma? And also, why does it exist? I feel like in more secular communities, it's more accepted to go to like couples counseling, but for some reason within the Catholic communities that I've experienced, it's very like they're married to type of thing.
When you say stigma, do you mean the marriages and the couples don't go to couple therapy for the stigma? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think this was bad in the past. It's getting better, at least in Spain. I have the impression people are more able to say, I need couples therapy, or I'm going to, I think we need to talk about the benefits. We need to talk about sometimes you need to reach for help, and as you reach for help in other issues, it makes sense to reach for couple therapy if you need it. Maybe some training in the preparation courses for the marriage, where someone can explain what is it about couple therapy, because people doesn't know. Sometimes the people, when in the first interview, I use some minutes to explain what's the therapy about and what they can expect. I think if we move that information to the general population, the Catholic general population, will be something to help. And I will think about other ideas. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Martiño. I really like it. I have two short questions. One is, have you ever thought about prevention in terms of even preparing couples to get married? And if so, could you share some of your thoughts in that? The other one is, I'm very impressed that you are working with so many countries and so many different cultures. To what extent the difference in culture, how much does it weigh in being able to apply therapies to everyone, if you will?
How much? I don't understand very well the second. The cultural differences, how much they are relevant for, do you mean if we can apply the same things to every culture? Okay. So going to the first question, of course, I think a lot in prevention. I also teach or give some trainings to couples which are not in therapy, are just general information or training, workshops to trying to prevent the problems. I think this is very different in the Spanish-speaking world and in the English-speaking world. I found in the States and the English world thinks in the marriage as in it has a negative and a positive side. But this issue of in the English-speaking countries where everything is about a business, So I'm married, so I need to invest in my relationships to try to this keep going well. And this sounds negative for me, but it takes a big side, which is then I'm going to try to reduce the problems in advance to take care of the relationship. This is stronger in the English-speaking countries. It's more the number of couples I saw in February in the workshop in Bethesda, the workshop led by Dr. Klewicki, was impressive for me. There are a lot of couples. In Spain, it will be difficult to solve something about, please go to this course to try to improve your relationship. But my relationship is fine, it's okay, I don't need it. So they don't go. But we are losing, we already lose, I think, in the last 40 years in Spain and probably in other countries, an opportunity in the Catholic Church, because now in Spain, people don't get married, and only very few. But 20 years ago or 30 years ago, most people get married, and they should go through a course the church offers, and is mandatory to go. And if we be able to offer a very good course in that setting, that will be a great way of helping the marriages. But that training usually is terrible. It's no works. Usually, sometimes not. So I think prevention is a big issue. I don't talk about prevention in this lecture because it's focused on couples therapy. But we can prepare another lecture only about couple education and all the programs that are and talking about the challenges and plus.
I have questions for you, Doctor.
And the second, sorry,
Oh.
the second question I forgot. The cultural question. I think for a therapist to know the culture is a plus. It helps a lot. But it's the same. This is my opinion. It's not evidence-based. It's my opinion. When someone asks me about the teletherapy in couples therapy, I should say, really, we need to wait to check what research says, but the therapy is a very complex process where there are a lot of variables. If you ask me to choose between in-person and online, I'm sure in-person is better, but there are other variables. If you need to choose between a very good trained couple therapist in emotionally focused therapy, for example, but online, and another one with a very bad training in a model nobody knows, I will do the online. Yeah? There are different variables and you need to check. And so for the culture is the same. I think several aspects of the process are the same. And if you know the culture, then you can do it even better. And this is a good point to make sure the process is going as best as possible. But several aspects of the different cultural differences are very, very difficult to see. For example, if we compare emotionally focused therapy in Spain, in the States, or in Finland, there are differences in the distance between the clients and the therapist. There are differences in the change of the intonation. There are differences in how the couple express themselves. But here in the States, if you take 10 couples, there are differences between them. Okay, maybe not in the distance between the therapist and the couple if it's the same therapist. Okay, so there are some differences, but in several other aspects, I can look to a video in Finland, Spain, and States and say, and I can say it's emotionally focused therapy. So, please.
This question is a clarification from the question earlier about how to work with homosexual couples.
Okay.
Marital therapy. You presented emotionally focused therapy and the integrative cognitive behavioral couple therapy is the only two that are evidence-based, which means that they're the only two that have randomized controlled trials, right? My understanding is that those randomized controlled trials are only with heterosexual couples. And so I'm wondering, do you know of any research in either of those modalities that has randomized controlled trials for homosexual couples showing the efficacy of the treatment modality being the same as it would for a heterosexual couple?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say as a researcher, I'm sure there are no, but I don't know. But because maybe yesterday a new manuscript that but I don't know. No.
I have yet to find any, so if you find them, please let me know. It's, you know, we do that. We say, here's an evidence-based treatment modality for one population. And then we apply it to other populations, and it may not necessarily be as effective in those other populations.
Yes, could be.
Right.
And
then I have a second question about that. John Gottman presents his model as if it is evidence-based. Is that, how would you approach that model?
No, sorry, no. John Gottman models has a lot of research, but according with this classification is not evidence-based. It could be in the second level, but not. And we can discuss about if it's better or not, but according with this classification, it's not evidence-based. Okay, one important thing I explain to some people is it's possible we have here in the other street a couple therapists that work very well, and in fact his therapy works and improves the couple's distress and reduce the couple's distress. But the problem is what this therapist is doing. How can I learn what he's doing? And what's the name of that? If we want to increase the quality of the couples therapists, increase the people who goes to couples therapy, the number of therapists, we need models we can train in the universities, we can test through research. So evidence-based means they have going through all this process and they are evidence-based, but maybe other models or other therapists work very well and their work works, but are not evidence-based because they don't have all these studies behind. Okay, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Rodríguez-González, so much for coming here. Thank you very much. Now, as we conclude our lecture, please note that the Newman series will resume in the fall. In fact, as you heard a little bit earlier, we already have a next lecture scheduled. October 8th, Dr. Martiño RodríguezGonzález will rejoin us on current status and future directions in couples therapy part 2, marriage and couple therapy, integrative faith and anthropological reflections, and international approach in Catholic context. So looking a little bit more at the application side and the context piece as well. And so please do plan to join us in the fall for that lecture. Thank you all for coming. Good night.